I joined Goldman Sachs 20 years ago, actually as an employment lawyer, and for the last 10 years have been the partner responsible for human capital management at the firm in Europe. And throughout that period, the firm has been very focused on diversity, and its views on diversity have evolved. But before I talk about a particular programme that we think has had impact in terms of helping our women get to more senior levels in the firm, I just wanted to start with a little bit of context. So, who are we, first of all? Obviously, we're a global investment bank. We have 36,000 employees across the world, 7,200 of which are in Europe across 19 offices. And of course, we have a variety of businesses at Goldman Sachs. So about half of the firm is revenue producing, and the other half of the firm support the revenue for producers. So obviously we have sales and trading, asset management, investment banking, but we also have a large operations team, legal, HR, compliance, audit. But one of the things that I think is little known about our firm is that although we call ourselves an investment bank, we are a technology firm as well, because we have 9,000 engineers at Goldman Sachs. And so with that body of people in our firm being the majority of the firm in terms of one division, we are really looking at our competitors in a very different way. Many of our competitors are tech companies like Google and Facebook, not just investment banks. And as we all know, women are significantly underrepresented in engineering roles across all industries, because women don't tend to study STEM subjects at university in the same number as men. And so that really is quite a significant challenge for us, and I'll come back to that. So why is diversity important to us? I mean, obviously we're a global firm operating in a global marketplace, and we know that we will be stronger as a firm if we have a diverse workforce which represents the communities in which our clients work across the world. As I said, we've had a long history of focusing on diversity because we want to attract and develop and retain the best talent across the world. And we know that in order to do so, particularly with the millennial generation, we have to be diverse and create an environment that is inclusive and where every single person can thrive and maximize their potential. I think, as Peter said, we recognise that our industry has historically attracted more men than women, and we've really got work to do to meet our aspiration to have women represent 50% of our workforce in the future. The gender pay gap data highlighted to us our demographic issue. We don't have enough women at senior levels of the firm, although it's interesting to note that in Europe, our head of engineering is a woman, and our head of sales and trading is also a woman. They're two very senior partners who run our key businesses, but we still, have a lot of work to do. So our sort of key focus areas are growing our junior talent, ensuring that our women progress through our firm at the most senior levels, and in order to do that, we have to make sure that the men understand what the challenges are in making sure that women can progress. And we also need to ensure that our senior leadership is wholly committed to diversity. And so we have quite a significant amount of governance around diversity within our firm. We have in Europe a diversity and inclusion committee which has been tasked with the diversity of the junior pipeline. So we have an aspirational goal to reach 50-50 at the sort of analyst hiring level by 2020. We want to increase senior women representation, so we signed the Women in Finance Charter, and our aim is to get to 30% senior women by 2023. And that obviously to us will be an important step in bridging that or in closing our gender pay gap. And then we really want to drive a dialogue and ensure that we have behaviour within our firm which ensures an inclusive environment. And there we're really going to focus on our managers and making sure that our managers know how to manage well and know how to manage everybody. Obviously there's no silver bullet, we all know that, otherwise we wouldn't be sitting in this room, I suspect, that solves the challenges. But I did want to highlight one particular initiative which we feel has had a significant impact, and we call it our Vice President initiative. So what I want to focus on, as I said, is this Vice President Sponsorship Initiative. And as you can see here, we have 4 levels in our firm: Analyst, Associate Vice President, and Managing Director. And so the reason for introducing this initiative was really that we saw a little bit of a gap in terms of helping our Vice President women. Mentorship and apprenticeship is very key to our culture, and I think is very strong in the junior population. And we have a number of initiatives at the junior level to build the pipeline. We have an A-level girls program, so we invite pre-university girls to come and spend a day at the firm, wandering around the firm, looking at the trading floor, having they play a trading game actually, and they really get a sense as to what it would be like to work at Goldman Sachs and the variety of jobs that we have available. We have a female trader academy where we really try and upskill and prepare female students for future trading roles. And then for the associate women, we have a Women's Career Strategies initiative, which is really a coaching and professional development opportunity for our associate women as they work towards VP. But in 2012, we recognised, interestingly, that in promotion discussions that we were having about women moving from vice president to managing director, there were just fewer advocates and sponsors for women. So we heard men really advocating strongly for men, but for some reason we weren't hearing men or women actually advocating for women to move to that level. And this really coincided with research, which I'm sure many of you've seen, which showed that sponsorship accelerates career trajectory, but men are 46% more likely than women to have a sponsor. And men seem to be able to find sponsors sort of more informally than women. And research also shows that, those with a sponsor are 30% more likely to get high-profile assignments, promotions, and pay rises. So we basically use that research to design and implement this sponsorship initiative, which really aims to drive accountability amongst our senior leaders, reinforce and strengthen the culture of sponsorship and actually apprenticeship at the firm, facilitate candid career development conversations and in an attempt to accelerate the participants' career progression. And with that, we hope to obviously increase the representation of women going to the most senior level in the firm and cultivate a sort of pipeline of that talent. So the sponsorship relationships are initiated with one-to-one meetings between, and so it's a tri-party initiative. So we have somebody in my team in HR who is responsible for the woman who is on the program. We have their manager involved, and then we appoint a senior sponsor, and that senior sponsor is sort of within their kind of management chain, but more senior. So it is somebody who knows what they're doing and who can advocate for them. So what do our results look like? So 91% of the women managing director promotes since 2012 have been participants in this initiative. And we've seen the number of women managing directors grow by 14% since 2012 when the initiative started. We have about 50 vice president women who participate each year, and it's typically those women are promoted in our next cycle. So actually we only promote managing directors every 2 years. So typically women who are in year 1 or year 2 of the initiative then get promoted. And participation then continues. Even if they're not promoted, they continue obviously to be in this initiative. And indeed, once they are promoted, we found that most of our sponsors want to maintain this relationship and really help them develop as managing directors, because it's quite a big step to go from a vice president to a managing director. And I think it's been a catalyst for building a culture of sponsorship among senior leadership. So whilst we have this program, I know that actually many of my partners see this as something that they should be doing on an ongoing basis and shouldn't need to be part of this initiative, which is helpful. And so it's had sort of a multiplier effect. In terms of critical success factors, in terms of how that we set this up, I think there were 3 critical success factors. The first was around accountability. So this program was launched by our CEO and has ongoing sort of sponsorship from our existing CEO, Richard Nodder. And he, alongside our diversity committee, really have oversight of all of the participants' progress. And we discuss, how these participants are doing in our diversity and inclusion committee. There's also a regular dialogue with the manager and the sponsors. So my HR team pick up regularly with the managers and the sponsors to check in, to make sure that the manager and the sponsor are talking, that the sponsor obviously is spending some time with the participant, and that they are all working together to make sure that this woman's career continues to develop. Training was also very important. So we had training for the sponsors, the managers and participants all separately. The participants, we really talked about how they could best leverage their sponsor. And we really defined the role, pretty carefully to make sure that people understood that this was about sponsorship, not mentorship, because the two are very different. And we gave them some talking points for the initial conversations just to really start that dialogue. And then the third critical success factor, I think, was the selection of the sponsors. We really needed to get the buy-in from the business around which women should be in this program, and how they could, best be developed. We had one or two cases where people just didn't hit it off with their sponsor, so we had a kind of no-fault divorce clause, whereby people could just say, hands up, actually, there's no chemistry between me and this sponsor, and so could I just walk away, or could you assign me a new sponsor? And, we've had to do that a few times. So we're currently working on our 2018 participants. Our next managing director class will be promoted at the end of 2019. This is in fact a partner year, so 1 year we do partners, the next year we do managing directors. But we're looking forward, to another good group of participants with these women, and hopefully they will then, move towards being promoted in 2019. So. I really do think it's been a very valuable initiative, and one of the interesting things to me, I always resist a little bit having these programs that seem a bit forced. It would always be better if you could find a mentor yourself versus the firm appointing one. Likewise, when we talked about this particular initiative, I had a little bit of a reaction of, gosh, can't we do this naturally within the organisation? But I mentor a huge number of women, and there is no doubt in my mind that they do find it much more difficult to naturally find a sponsor, because most of the people who they would be sponsored by are men, are senior men, and they just don't feel comfortable in feeling that they've got that relationship. So, by forcing it, it certainly has had, real benefits for our women, and, has I think been impactful for our women. That said, we know we have, a lot more to do, as is, demonstrated by our gender pay gap data. But, this is one initiative which I think is really helping us get those senior women in the spotlight, ready for promotion, and that will inevitably, hopefully, narrow our pay gap. Thank you very much.